Have been lots of optimism around United fans going into this season, and it's not difficult to see why. They have signed 3 fantastic players. They have literally overhauled their entire front line. Imagine going from Marcus Rashford, Alejandro Garnacho, and Rasmus Højlund to having Matheus Cunha, Brian Mbeumo, and Benjamin Sesko as your front 3. That in terms of when we are talking about an upgrade, that is what you call an upgrade. And Manchester United have gone from this to this. Manchester United just endured one of the worst seasons in their modern history. Now, did I say one of the worst? They just endured the worst season in their modern history, finishing 15th with just 42 points, which is their lowest top flight total since the 1970s when they were relegated. And listen, much has been said of how bad United have been last season. They lost the Europa League final to Tottenham, of all teams. They exited the FA Cup at the 5th round. They were runners-up in the Community Shield, losing to Manchester City. They, exited the Carabao Cup. I mean, they went trophyless, and it was an abysmal season. It was a terrible season for Manchester United. There was a roller coaster of managers. Erik ten Hag was sacked. Ruud van Nistelrooy took over. Then Ruben Amorim arrived on the 11th of November, and the season was just horrendous for Manchester United fans, and it's one season that Manchester United fans would want to quickly put behind them. But what does this season hold for United fans? Manchester United have signed Matheus Cunha for £62.5 million from Wolverhampton Wanderers. They've signed Brian Mbeumo for £65 million plus add-ons, of course, from Brentford. They've also gone on to sign Benjamin Sesko from RB Leipzig for £66 million, thereabout, initial fee. And of course, there have been signings like, of course, Diego Leon, who was just announced, but he was signed earlier in the year. And of course, youth additions like Enzo Canabig, etc. And of course, at the time of recording, these are the only signings that have been made. There's still, rumors here and there that Manchester United are working on the signature of Carlos Baleba from Brighton. And even there are rumors of Gianluigi Donnarumma from Paris Saint-Germain. But as of now, these are the only players that have been signed. Talking about the preseason games, Manchester United competed in the Premier League Summer Series, which they won, defeating Bournemouth and West Ham United and drawing 2-2 with Everton in the United States. They also had a 1-1 draw with Fiorentina at Old Trafford last weekend, which was decided on penalties that, of course, they won, which is the Snapdragon Cup. So basically, United have won 2 cups, but that's by the way. There have been lots of optimism around United fans going into this season, and it's not difficult to see why. They have signed 3 fantastic players. They have literally overhauled their entire front line. Imagine going from Marcus Rashford, Alejandro Garnacho, and Rasmus Højlund to having Matheus Cunha, Brian Mbeumo, and Benjamin Sesko as your front 3. That in terms of when we are talking about an upgrade, that is what you call an upgrade. And Manchester United have gone from this to this in just one window, and that must be commended. And I believe the likes of Jason Wilcox and Omar Berrada and of course Christopher Vivell should be commended for that. However, for a team that finished 15th last season, is that enough to get them where they ought to be, which is in reality should be challenging for the Premier League title? But you and I both know that that's not going to happen with just that signing, with just those signings. If Manchester United go on to get Carlos Baleba, then I believe that if any United fan go on to start saying funny things like they think they would win the Premier League title, they probably would not. But you can allow him. When you look at what they were bad at, right, most of what they struggled with was finishing chances. United always created chances, even when the defense was porous or Andre Onana was making 1 or 2 mistakes here and there. they were always finishing. They were always creating chances, rather, but they were not finishing them. And having three players come in who are proven finishers. I mean, Brandon Mbeumo got 20 goals in the Premier League last season. Matheus Cunha got about 15 goals, if I'm not mistaken. And of course, Benjamin Sesko, although a newbie to the Premier League, is a player that is physically adept. He may have a little more time trying to adapt to the speed of the Premier League, but is physically ready to compete in the Premier League. And he got 13 goals in the Bundesliga last season as well. Matheus Cunha offers you genuine ball carrying ability. He's able to pick the ball and drive the ball into the final third. And when you compare that to what United had last season, it's night and day. Brandon Mbeumo is an efficient machine. He reminds me, and I'm going to say this very softly so Liverpool fans don't come for me. He reminds me of Mohamed Salah. Mohamed Salah is that player that he's not that bothered about him having to drop his shoulder and beat you. I'm not saying he can't do those things, but he's not really bothered about that. He's all about goals, assist, goals, assist, goals, assist. And that is exactly how Brandon Mbeumo is. He's a stats machine, very similar to Bruno Fernandes. And then when you look at Benjamin Sesko is a focal point. He's a powerful with an absolute cannon of a shot. And in terms of finishing, Manchester United should not have problem with finishing chances any longer. But there are other places that United currently, as at the time of recording this video, they haven't signed a midfielder, and that is where they would possibly have an issue. So now, when you look at United's starting 11, there's currently no midfield partnership that is tailor-made for what Amorim wants to do. Bruno Fernandes is definitely going to play as a deep line playmaker, one of those two deeper midfield roles. But who is going to play alongside him? Casemiro? Casemiro is good on the ball, but doesn't have the legs to cover the vast amount of space that will be left behind by the wing backs, of course. Manuel Ugarte, he has the engine. He can cover so much ground, right? He is very good when it comes to pressing, which is, what Kalanka of the Athletic used to call front foot defending. He's very good at that. But back foot defending, he struggles. He struggles to pick up runners sometimes in and around him. He struggles with that. And probably most importantly, playing out from the back for Manuel Ugarte is a monumental task. He struggles with that, seriously. And, if he's playing alongside Bruno Fernandes, he's going to be targeted. And, much of the blame is going to eventually go to Bruno Fernandes because, of course, people just like to attack Bruno Fernandes these days. But I think that Kobbie Mainoo does not suit any position in Amorim's system. Kobbie Mainoo is a number 8. And Amorim does not really use a number 8. Now, because he's a young player, he can be taught to actually play as one of those two deeper positions, playing alongside Bruno Fernandes. But currently, he can't do it. And he's good on the ball. He's good in tight spaces. He's, largely press resistant. However, when it comes to having the legs, to cover the vast amount of distances that Manchester United would obviously leave, I don't think Kobbie Mainoo can do that. And I don't think Bruno Fernandes can do that as well. While Bruno Fernandes, Bruno Fernandes is always running about. He never gets tired. That is not just about running about. There is an art to defending as a defensive midfielder. There is a way you anticipate where the ball is going, where the ball will arrive, the men around you. There's an intelligence about it. It's not just about cutting up and down the gaff and doing that. There's an intelligence to it, and there's currently no Manchester United player that can do that. Casemiro can do it. He has the intelligence to do it, but his body cannot just do it. I mean, I'm sure many times on the pitch, Casemiro is like, in his head, he's like, yeah, I should do that. But before his body moves to get there, it's already a problem, So I think United needs to get a midfielder. If Manchester United can get Carlos Baleba, it's going to be a problem for the Premier League, because I think they have a very, very balanced team. And one key thing is that they have just one game a week. Manchester United are not competing on any European competition. They are tailor-focused on the Premier League. And that affords Ruben Amorim the time to work even more on his game model. And I think that is very important, because once Manchester United's players have etched into their muscle memory how Ruben Amorim wants to play, it's just a matter of time before United become, a very, very formidable team. Because I believe Ruben Amorim is a fantastic coach. and he just needs that time, and he's going to have that time on the training pitch with his boys this season, and it could be a problem for opposition teams. What should Manchester United fans expect from their team this season? Well, honestly, European qualification will be fine. I believe it should be a realistic expectation. European qualification should be fine. If Manchester United should, however, splash the cash on Carlos Baleba, I believe then you can start talking about challenging for challenging at the top table. Maybe not eventually winning the Premier League, but challenging on them. I believe many people are forgetting that one of the major reasons why Manchester United finished 15th last season was because they focused on the Europa League. Many of the last 8 games of the season, if Manchester United had, didn't have European competition and were focused on the Premier League, they wouldn't have lost most of those games. At least they would have drawn some of them, So I believe that now that United can focus on the Premier League only, it allows them to be able to, it allows them to get better results. And I believe that Manchester United should aim for, much, much higher this season. However, what is my predicted expectation? Where do I think United will finish in the Premier League? I think United will finish 3rd if they sign Carlos Baleba or a player as maybe not as good as Carlos Baleba, but ticks the boxes that Carlos Baleba ticks. If United do that, I think United will finish 3rd, and you can clip this up and say, I think United will finish 3rd if they sign Carlos Baleba. If they're not able to sign Carlos Baleba or another midfield enforcer that ticks the boxes that Baleba does, I think 6th is going to be the position Manchester United finish this season. That's what I think. I mean, what do you reckon? Do you think Manchester United's rebuild is going to hit the rafters this season? I mean, it's been optimistic. A lot of Manchester United fans are very optimistic for the season. Do you think it is well placed, or do you think they're just being deluded? What do you think, United fans? And do you think Manchester United are ready for the Premier League season? That's the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. Do well to like the video, subscribe to the channel, get into the comments, and let us know your opinion, what you agree with, what you think is going to be the case for Manchester United this season. United take on Arsenal on Sunday in the Premier League opener. Hey guys, if you follow the channel, I habitually put out content on this, so I'm going to be covering the game. I will be watching the game alongside some fans where I am, which is in Nigeria, Lagos, Nigeria. I'll be watching the game with some fans, and I'll be getting the opinions of some fans. So do well to stay tuned for that content. That is going to be coming up this weekend. Thank you so much again for watching. See you on the next video.